way, uh, before I get into how to go about learning this language, how to memorize the things quickly and in a meaningful way that will stick. First, I'm just going to go over my quick recap of my progress for today. So I went back through again, of course, my flashcards, because that is the core of what we do here is flashcards to help you memorize and learn stuff. So I went back 40 of my 48 flashcards. I flipped them over because I felt good enough to where I was able to do the recognition aspect, the recognition side of memorization, which is looking at a thing and being able to identify what it is. So that is looking at the phrase in the new language and being able to remember what it means in your current language. So 40 of the 48 cards, I went ahead and flipped over to the production side. Now, 8 of them were still giving me problems. And so what I did there was I left those 8 cards on on the recognition side. So basically, when running through the cards, I got 15 of the production side correct out of 40. So 15 correct, 25 incorrect. Mind you, I held myself to a very high bar of absolute correctness. So the pronunciation, of course, how to say it, and how to write it. So I basically, if I got half of it right or even like one word wrong out of the 4 or 5 word phrase or sentence, I put it in the no pile. And truly, I would say about a third of my no pile were partially correct. So some of the, like half of the sentence, I remembered the other half and I couldn't. So that shows that really, like, I could have done 3 piles, like, kind of got it right, did not get it right at all, and then, yes, got it 100% correct. But I didn't want to do that. I just want to keep it simple. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. You run back through the nose again. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Run back through the nose again. Yes, no, yes, no. Very simple, very quick. Yes, the production phase of language memorization and learning is much harder. So, and that's the first glimpse of true fluency that you're having right now. So you can be fluent in 5 or 6 phrases right now, starting on your first day. You can, or the second day, let's just say. So, as far as those stubborn 8 cards that did not stick, those, again, they stayed on the recognition side because they still weren't sticking. I got 50% of those right. I only did 1 lap. I didn't do another lap and a third lap this time. Because I'm switching to the other side of the cards, the production phase, I decided to leave the card to not do multiple laps. These cards also have, if you remember, tricky elements like reflexive verbs. So, like a backwards verb. For example, like me gusta in Spanish or mueresi in Greek. It's like, instead of I like, it appeals to me. So it's like a backwards. And that makes it harder to memorize because it breaks the pattern that your brain is trying to build. So what I did today is I'm almost kind of starting over again from scratch. I made another deck that I will begin using immediately, and then I will go back to the original deck as my phase 2 deck. So no need to throw it away. Oh gosh, it's a little too challenging. No, I'm actually making really good progress on that. But I want to try and simplify things so I can memorize more words and target them out of my brain so that instead of it being a phrase of like 4 or 5 words, and I'm like, oh God, which one is the word eat? Or which one means friend? I know very specifically because these new phrases are literally like, I wake up, we work, he reads, they live, we eat. So here is how to start from day one, from scratch. This is the revised edition. My hair is uber crazy today, but I'm just going to roll with it. This is the revised edition, all right? So basically, I went into ChatGPT. I asked for 7 conjugations of the verb to be in the present tense, in this case in Greek, but this will apply to all languages. So the 2 words I chose were the 2 most common verbs, which are to be and to have. I then asked the same thing for the verb to have in the present tense in all 7 conjugations in the present tense. So like I have, you have, she has, he has, we have, they have. And then the third little mini stack of 7, I went ahead and said, give me the verb to be in the past tense. So let's go ahead and start moving towards the past tense immediately on technically day 1. This is actually my day 8 and my second deck of cards, but I have a revised approach, a simplified approach that is going to get faster success and help things really stick. Now, that's only 21 cards. With those remaining 30, all I did was ask ChatGPT top 30 most common verbs, each randomly conjugated to a subject. Example, he eats, we read, they answer. So the emphasis here, the focus is verbs, and more verbs, not vocabulary, no long sentences. We just want to see clear verb conjugation patterns, and we want to memorize as many verbs as quickly as possible. That's my theory here, is that verbs are the most important building block of language. Of course, like, okay, apple, bed, television, like those things are important too, but oftentimes you can use verbs to explain the thing you don't know what it's called. Oh, the thing you turn it on and you watch moving pictures. Oh, that's a television set. Yeah. So basically, verbs are your most important thing. You can't tell a story. You can't understand a story. You can't talk to a friend about what they're doing. You can't do anything without verbs. So immediately we are moving towards, it actually ended up being the top 29 most common verbs because it's 21 of the 3 stack, right? There's 7, 7, and 7. Then we have a remaining 29 cards. So I just put the verbs. And in that, I repeated, he, she, it. So we're going to get a lot of those, which is good. Another important thing, if you're actually watching and not just listening, it's okay either way. Don't mind it. Don't worry about that. I left space after you are. I left space after I wake up, so that in the future, once these cards are way too easy for me, I can just tack on some additional stuff at the end of the sentence. I wake up early in the morning. I wake up to the sound of cars passing by. Whatever you want to do. Later on, when we're like, all right, these are way too easy, you can revisit them. They're not just garbage, and you can add on to them. So I wrote the beginning of the sentence far over to give myself room to be able to add stuff on. So my theory here, why this strategy, it's not really a theory. I know it's going to work. But simple sentences equal quick wins, which equals higher motivation, less stress, less feeling like, oh God, I keep getting this one wrong. What the hell? Verb heavy learning helps with building sentences later on. You're going to build real fluency through repetition and through confidence, not complexity right off the bat. Now, these new cards are also going to make production way easier to tackle from the start, which means I am going to be able to recall them off the top of my head much quicker because it's a shorter phrase. And I'm also going to be able to begin creating sentences like, I like to read, um, things like that. I like to sing. So you're immediately going to be able to start building more complex sentences right off the bat. So I am now, as you can see, this is how you're going to bridge the gap between recognition and production. So looking at a thing and saying, I know what that means, to being able to say, how do I say that one thing off the top of your head, which is true fluency, which is truly learning a language. So now I'm going to start using the new deck of cards, to start going and diving deeper into the production phase, which is going to be a lot easier. I'm going to be able to burn through this quickly. Then I'll probably go back to my original deck of cards, run through those again, and then I'll revisit the easy deck and start adding things onto the end. So as you can see, the journey is starting to unfold a little faster and better now, and I'm simplifying the approach. So very quickly, I want to show you what I said to ChatGPT to make it give me these the ideas for these cards. So the first thing that I said to ChatGPT, I said, please give me the two verbs, the most common verbs conjugated in the present for each 7 pronouns. That is me, you, he, she. And then give me the verb to be conjugated in the past for the same 7 pronouns. Then I said, after that, give me the 30 most common verbs other than the verbs that have already been made, that have already been mentioned using the above process. So I didn't want it to repeat. I don't want a repeat of the same card. And I said, those 30 verbs, I want them conjugated to just a single pronoun, giving a, what did I say? Así dando solo una forma cada uno de ellos. Thus giving only one conjugated form of each verb. So first it gave me part 1, it gave me the 2 verbs, which were to be in the present and to have in the present, the 2 most commonly used verbs. And then part 2 was to be in the past for each pronoun. So that's your first 21. So that's your first 21 cards, right? After that, it gave me, which is part 3, the 30 most common verbs, each one conjugated. It actually gave me only conjugated to I. So what I did was I came back after that and I said, looks good, but could you add the pronouns? Because it initially didn't give you the pronouns at all. And I said, could you please add the pronouns to each verbal conjugation, to each verb? So I came back and it redid all that. And then I said, okay, cool. And then I said, on part 3, can you change the pronoun of the sentence? please. That is, I write, she sings, we speak. And then it came back and it gave me exactly what I wanted. Perfect. It even gives you the phrase in your target language. It gives you the translation to put on the back of the card, and then it gives you a pronunciation guide, so how to pronounce it. And it was perfect. And that's what I used to make these cards. So again, 2 most common verbs conjugated in the present for every pronoun. Then the third group is to be in the past, conjugated to every pronoun. That's your 21, your little 3 stacks of 7. And then all the other verbs are like I go, you want, he can, she knows, we see, they speak, they listen. So that is how to begin immediately from day one, how to make your cards and begin using them immediately. And this is what I'm going to use tomorrow. I'm going to immediately use my new deck of cards and I'm just going to breeze through them compared to the sentences that I had before, which were 4 or 5 words long, which may be a bit much when you're first trying to form the patterns in your brain. So anyway, that's it for today. That is how to learn any language from scratch, starting at the beginning.